Les, thank you so much for being with us. A huge honor. You're one of the most interesting builders. Your work speaks for itself. It's insane, and it makes you change. It made me change the way I think about electric guitars.
Thank you so much. It's very, very cool. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be 46, and I've been doing it for around 25 years, like pretty steady. So it's I'm just always coming up with new ideas, and that's sort of all I do. Some people write books, so I get up every day and just draw guitars, you know. Yeah. So I find as I stay at it, the ideas sort of, there's usually a lot of bad ideas, like 90% of them are really horrible. More. So the 2% or whatever that sort of trickle through the sketch pad, some of those I just decide to try to make them a reality. That's all it is. Just drawing fun things and trying to make it more tangible. That's it.
Awesome. So that's a great segue. So how did you get started in guitar building, and how'd your journey kind of begin?
Actually, when I first started playing guitar, I was around 14. My dad kind of surprised me with a Les Paul copy, like a Vibra Les Paul copy.
Yeah.
So I put thrash and hardcore stickers all over it, like DRI and, you know, and Minor Threat and all that stuff.
Awesome.
And I took all the strings off it and just put the one low E string. I was convinced that the other strings were not necessary. I don't know. The lazy person in me decided that the other strings weren't necessary. So finally, I took lessons and stuff for quite a long time, but long story short there was I noticed that I had a real intrinsic interest in the guitar itself. Like when I used to skateboard, I used to always take skateboards apart and bikes and stuff and put them back together.
Yeah.
And so guitars were the same thing. I started taking them apart just to see how they worked. And when I got my first guitar book, a friend of my dad's bought it for me. And when I noticed a real Les Paul had a carved top,
yeah.
But when I found out it wasn't a hollow guitar, they just did that to make it look. I was so fascinated. I don't know why that fascinated me, that a company would get wood and carve it to make it look like one of their archtop guitars.
Yeah.
So that got me into woodworking. That was it. That was just right away. I was like, wow, that's so cool that they would take the time to make the top curved. And that was, so from there on in, I was just like, I really want to, you know, not necessarily make guitars, but then early 20s, I was working at an animation studio, and there was this wild guy there named Vicky Ponoff. He has crazy hair like Sideshow Bob.
Yeah.
And he had this box of wood, and I go, what's that? He's like, I'm making a bass. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to make a Warwick-style bass. And I remember my mind was blown. I was like, wait, you can just do that, can't you? You can just buy wood and put it together. And so that was it. So I started trying to make stuff. And then I was really into fusion, like John McLaughlin, Tony Williams, Stanley Clarke, all that stuff. So Anthony Jackson. So I knew of Carl Thompson's basses, not so much from the Les Claypool connection at all, from much earlier than that, like Colin Hodgkinson from Backdoor and things like that. So I was like, I want to study with Carl Thompson. So I found his number in a weird publication, and I just called it one day, and I was just like, can I come down there? And I didn't hear from him for a bit, and then one day my phone rang, and I didn't know who was on the other end, and it was Carl, and he's just like, hey, where are you? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, "You're supposed to be here yesterday." It was just so that was his way of saying, "Come on down." And so I tried to sit with him on and off for around 2 years. I'd go from Toronto down to Brooklyn and stay there, and that's sort of how I got the bug, like the addiction of building.
That's awesome. And how did that go from you kind of apprenticing and learning the craft to then going into sort of your own designs?
Actually, before I started apprenticing with Carl, I had like ideas in mind. I love those Ampeg basses from the 60s. They had this horizontal bass with these F-holes cut through it and a scroll headstock. And I was drawing one, and I wanted to make like a copy. I didn't really have one to look at, so I just had a blow up from a book. So I was drawing F-holes, which are offset from each other. And my brother and my dad actually thought that was the shape of a guitar I was designing. So they sort of were like, "Man, you should try this." So I drew it out a little better. And then around that time is when I started apprenticing with Carl. So at his place, I'd be still working on my own sketches and stuff. And so when I sort of would come back from his place, I would just go to my little shop and just try to work on my own ideas. So, but my dad and my brother were pretty much for my main model called the Dragon Eddy guitar. It's got like scrolls and stuff on it. They were sort of the ones that said, don't do it like Carl, like don't round it all off and, maybe make it more violin-like. So then I got a violin book and started trying to make upright basses and scrolls and then learn how to arch, plates and that kind of stuff. So it's just sort of like doing something that you wouldn't come naturally, really. Like other people sort of introduced those concepts and said, you should try to up your own ante. So I kind of, that competitive part of me, not in terms of competing with guitars, but that internal competition. It's like, oh, I guess I should probably try to get good at woodworking. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Just like maybe I should try other things other than just, not to disrespect anybody, just putting slabs through a thickness sander, right? Like I felt maybe, not to say there's anything wrong with that at all. Like there's 1,000 ways to make a guitar, but I just thought maybe I could actually work the wood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sort of like with leather goods, you know what I mean? I know it's different, but when you get like brand new leather stuff and some of it's really stiff and like you almost don't want to wear that pair of shoes or Doc Martens for a while. And then you get ones that, not that you want it relic or pre-work, but it's nice when, to me, an instrument feels like it's been vibrating for a long time.
Yeah.
And or clothing, I like it comfortable. So I always equated to woodworking like that. I find the more I work the wood, the more it yields Roman armor, So it's,
Interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's all. And it doesn't necessarily make it better. I just find, like, with my own tastes and some other people I know, it's like they really like it when they put a pair of shoes on or something and they feel like comfortable right off the. You just put them on, walk out of the store and be like, "This is amazing." So that's all I try to do with the instruments and the woodwork, make it very presentable and like super playable. So if someone gets it, I give it to them and they get it. Take it out of the box, that kind of thing. I just want it so I set it up the best. Like I'm trying to leave it so there's really not a lot for the other person to really have to do with it at all. So
that's
anyway, that's my long story.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And as the process of you making the guitars, right? You kind of alluded to a little bit. You're doing that all by hand, or much of it by hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I use power tools, but I don't use any CNC machines at all. I imagine that some of my pickups and tuning machines and fret fire dies and stuff are probably all done on CNC mills.
Sure.
My fret scales that I buy, from Stu Mac and Luthier's Mercantile, that kind of thing, they're all done on a CNC mill, right? So I'm using some things that are CNC accurate to help augment what I'm doing by hand because since things have gone that way, you have to. Leo Fender pretty much got the fret scale bang on for the first time in the music industry. I mean, no one was making guitars, not even Gibson was making guitars with a scale length that accurate. So from there, you have to those are the things that I think when someone ups the ante that way, those are the things I think you have to take into high consideration. So I wouldn't think of no offense to anybody, like hand slotting too many fingerboards. You know, as much as some people do really good that way, I mean, get perfect results. I think day in and day out, if I was hand slotting fingerboards, I'd be like, there's no way I can maintain that level of accuracy, even though I'm pretty good. So there's certain things I like to augment with that. But I used to run a CNC mill in my 20s, like a 6-spindle one. NASA owned it. So I used to do like high production stuff and stuff that was a lot more risk factor, you know? And so when I started looking at what I'm doing with the carving and with the joinery, the wood joinery, my whole guitar is pretty much joinery first. So a CNC won't be able to do any of those joineries, the joints at all. It's not going to happen. So then the next step is I got to carve this potato, you know, peel this potato down. And when I look at what a CNC does, and I've had bodies done before in my 20s, it for me, it would be a waste of time. It would actually probably slow the process down, and I'd have a little router bed just pecking at this thing for hours and hours, as opposed to me just going over with like a chisel and just a couple. So that's the reason why I just do it the way I do it. And if I thought Sam Maloof, the furniture maker, you know, he was offered like quite a few $1 million to put his chairs into production, but you couldn't. The few things that you couldn't do on a CNC mill were the things that actually make the chair the chair. So I'm not trying to be old-fashioned or anything like that. I'm just coming from a practical place. It's sort of the same thing. I've had offers. I've had people say, we want to put that Dragon Eddie guitar out, this and that. And I'm just like, there's no point, because the only reason why I make it the way I make it is because I can.
Yeah.
If I put it back into the thing where it's like, you know, cutting corners and this and that, it goes back into, not to say maybe people think my work's mediocre anyway, but I definitely think it would be really mediocre to try to make something that looks that way in a high production way. So
totally understand that. Why risk it?
Sort of, other things that I do, I thought maybe I'll get them CNC'd at some point in time, but I don't know if I have enough time in my life to do that. So you go with the flow and trust your own intuition and just say, okay, what do I really want to make right now? And it also helps you've got, at least with me, like a player in mind, whether it's someone who's still active or someone just in my imagination, like Ace Frehley from Kiss. I've mentioned that a few times. I just sort of have like a running narrative for fun that keeps me motivated. So, designing something, I always think, would it look good on Ace Frehley in the 70s? Or would this bass look cool on some, you know, Heat Wave from UFO or Stanley Clarke, you know? Like, so I just have certain imagery and performance style that I think go hand in hand with it, but I have no set parameter. I'm always excited for anybody new to just come and get an instrument and go crazy with it. But
what's next for you guys? What's down the pipeline?
Well, for 2022, I'm finally like, social media for me has been like a bit of an experiment, because it's not something I would normally do.
Sure.
And some friends of mine and like sort of close family and stuff were like, just, you know, take a shot at it. I was like, I'm already shooting myself in the foot building guitars for a living. I said, given my personality type, I said, going on social media is going to be very destructive for me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's been okay. And again, it's wonderful, like, meeting guys like you and community like that. And, so I share a lot and just try and, you know, stay talking with other builders, because there's people out there doing some things on an Olympic level.
Yeah.
Like what I do, and I think what I do is very, very good work. But I'm the first person to say that there's, like, in the world, same thing within the world of athletics, not that this is a competition in that way, but there are some builders out there that are Olympic level builders, you know, just like there's musicians that are Olympic level musicians. So, and I'm not Olympic level. I'm just, you know, king of the hacks, if you would, at the most. So yeah, I can hack through any guitar piece, and I can hack through pretty much any woodworking thing. If you want me to make a house, I'll make a house. You want me to carve you a panther, I'll carve a panther. But I'm not a master, but I can do it.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I just sort of like enjoy doing what I'm doing. And so for 2022, a new website will be up. I'll have a new Instagram page with actual guitars that are for sale. It won't be me talking or me singing or anything like that. It's just going to be just perfect, nice photos with a price underneath it.
Yeah.
And it'll be available. So there'll be LSD guitars, Trilogy guitars, and Dragon Eddy guitars. But the LSD guitar will be pretty much the one that will be the most available. Sort of like a universal fun guitar, you know.
Sure.
So that's me trying to do something semi production, but without, you know, really going and outsourcing stuff again or doing any of that kind of stuff. I try and keep it pretty close to home, and all my customers know that I've never had a return. I've been doing it for 25 years. I've never had one return.
Yeah.
I've made about over 420 instruments now, like sold custom. But one thing I like about doing it this way is every one of my customers knows that they can, like, I don't like to put it out there too much, but I mean, if they dented a fret or did anything like that, if they really want to, they said to me, I would just do it for free.
Yeah.
So I stay responsible to everything that I make, and I only make things that I would buy. So hypothetically, it hasn't happened, knock on wood, but I have to always be realistic. If someone really didn't like something that I made them custom, even though it was within a certain margin of something that's personalized, as long as I know that I like it enough to buy it, that's how I feel secure with the sale. It's because I feel I will only make it and send it out to the person if I know right now I would go, if it was in a store, that I'd pay that much for it and buy it and really stoked that I got it. So I'm not saying that my perspective will be what other people's perspective is, but that's the one I try to uphold, to just sort of say, try and keep customers happy. That's why I do it. And like ultimately just do it because you want to excite the person and get excited for them in a way, you know, like if someone calls and says, I just got the guitar and I love it and I'm writing all this new material, that's why I get excited. So that's the reason why I really still do it. But from there, for the last 25 years, everyone's been one of a kind. Like I don't work from templates. Everyone's just a drawing. So even all the Dragon Eddy guitars, I've made hundreds of those. I've only used, I think, the same shape twice. Huh. So if you look at all of them, like if I was to get photos of all of them and lay them all out, like around 200 basses and guitars, you would look in every one of those scroll guitars, the shape's different. So I've never really reproduced it twice. So that's another thing that's kind of, everybody who has one as of now really has one that's not the same shape or same woods or anything as the other person's. Yeah. But with that comes, you know, always retooling. I'm always doing something different, and that's kind of nice. But I've got certain things that now over the years I noticed that seem to work for me anyway. So it's taken me around 25 years, but I think I'm at a point now where I feel I can make some instruments that will be just for sale, and hopefully there'll be some interested parties that'll just be like, okay, you know, I like your custom work, but I like that particular instrument for what it is. I'll just buy it for what it is. Sure. So that, I'm gonna try that out and see. But if not, then I'll probably go back to, so what do you want? You want this many pickups? You want this many knobs? You want this preamp? You want this? So if that's the way it goes, that's fine with me too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Cool.
Shall we jump into the speed round portion?
I think we're ready for the speed round.
All right.
All right.
Ready to rock.
All right. Tremolo or hardtail?
Hardtail.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Gibson Explorer or Flying V?
I'm gonna say Explorer.
Yeah. Totally. I would have thought you would too.
It makes sense.
It's so tough.
That's generally a tough one.
My two favorite Gibson designs. I thought those are my two faves for Gibson.
I bet.
Awesome. Would you pick Vox or Marshall?
Vox.
Stratocaster or a Telecaster?
Telly.
All right.
Cool. All right. Are you a boots guy or a sneakers guy?
For stage, boots. Yeah.
All right.
Even boots like Lemmy's white boots. You know,
Awesome.
Elevator boots.
Awesome. SG or Les Paul?
SG.
Makes sense. If you had to pick one, P90 or humbucker?
Humbucker.
Yeah.
All right. Would you prefer an awesome overdrive pedal or a cranked amp?
Cranked amp.
All right. Neck pickup or bridge pickup?
The rocker in me, bridge pickup, but the old guy in me, neck pickup.
Yeah, all right.
All
yeah.
right. All right. And black coffee, yes or no?
No coffee.
No
No
coffee.
coffee.
Wow. All right.
I think that's all we got for you, man.
Well, wonderful. You guys rule.
So do you, man.